Holy fuck! In this series, we're going to be taking a look at every single Hiya Exquisite basic figure in the Godzilla line. Every repaint, reissue, 2.0, whatever they put out, we're going to be taking a look at them all in release order. Let's get started. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video review. Today, we are taking a look at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic King Ghidorah 2019. I'm so happy, so excited to finally be out of the Godzilla figure sprint and moving on to the next brand new mold from Hiya Toys. This figure was highly anticipated for so long. You guys think the wait for Godzilla Evolved was bad? Man, Hiya Toys teased us and kept us waiting for this figure for so long. And let me tell you, when it finally showed up, I mean, just look at it. This figure is incredible. Now, there's a lot to cover here. I don't want this video to be too long, so let's just go right into it. The sculpted detail on this figure is so impressive that you really can't appreciate it until it's in your hand right in front of you. Starting with the front of the figure, we have this beautiful underbellied layered scaling, like a snake almost. This is actually going to go from underneath the chins, all the way down the body, all the way down to his little Ghidorah, past his little Ghidorah to the tip of the tails. These scales are smooth, they're well-defined, they're layered in certain areas, they're very striking, they look nice. On the sides of the neck, these scales are actually gradually faded from this large scaled pattern down to a very, very fine scale. And these fine sculpted scales are just covered all over the damn figure. Every square inch of this figure, if it doesn't have a different texture on it, it has these very fine scales. It complements the body structure, complements these sculpted muscles, because underneath that, you do have sculpted muscles. Moving on to the very tips of the tails, the texturing is going to transition into this nice, almost dinosaur-like reptilian skin texture, which really complements these bone spikes sticking out all over the tails. The feet are going to have similar dragon scales layered on top of the toes as we go into the talons. Even underneath the feet are going to have a padded, rough, cut-up skin texture like you would see on an animal. Moving on to the heads, the horns, much like the tails, are going to look very bone-like with all these ridges and layers sculpted into them. The snouts have this snarling expression sculpted in them, really gives a very menacing look to these heads. Even the inside of the mouth, the roof of the mouth and the tongue, I mean, just look at that detailing. You're not even going to see that most of the time, and yet they actually went out of their way to sculpt in all that detailing. Saving the best for last, let's now talk about these wings. The thing that's going to catch your attention immediately are these majestic, giant wings. As I already mentioned, this scaling texturing is going to be sculpted in all the way up the arms, all the way up the what I'll refer to as the fingers, the segments here. Even on the back, you're going to have knuckles sculpted on. I don't even know if that's accurate, but it looks very, very nice. It looks very Giger's Alien. You have these very nice fabric ripples. They've managed to capture that look, that feel, that this is fabric. So nice. It's very subtle, at least the further down you go. It's more noticeable up top on these upper wing joints, but again, the further down you go, it is still there. It's still present, but it's very subtle. And that is accented with all of these veins. He is a veiny boy, and you can see veins all over the wings, front and back. Some of these are only painted on, but most of these are actually sculpted into the wing here. The eyes are going to have only 2 coats of paint, a bright orange and a black pupil. That's it. Nothing crazy, but again, they are effective. And none of them are googly-eyed, so that's always a plus. All right, let's go into articulation. Now, the very first thing I want to cover, this is the most important thing I can talk about on this figure, guys. This is the biggest disclaimer. If there's anything you take away from this video, it should be this. These wings have a lot of joints in them. There's a joint right here at the base of the main arm. There's a joint here at the lower wing. And then there's 3 joints here near the fingers. All of the joints on the wings are revolver joints, also known as Revoltech joints. And what that means is that there is a seam right there in the middle. That's the hinge. This wing, this piece, only moves along that hinge like that. You cannot move it up and down. You can only hinge it along that axis point. Now, because there's a peg on both halves of that sphere, I can also rotate that joint at the bottom, and I can rotate it here at the top. But no matter how you rotate it, you can only swivel the wing along that one access point. And that is also true for the main wing joint. This is, in fact, not a ball joint. There's a sleeve here. I think I just bumped the camera. There's a sleeve here. I think this is just a floating sleeve. Not too sure. And it has enough flex to it that you would think this is a ball joint. But this is actually a very large revolver joint. And you can rotate the upper wing and the lower part where those pegs are. There's some flex here. Like you can move it up and down, but that's not an actual point of articulation. And the same goes for this lower wing. I cannot stress that enough, how important it is to understand how those joints work. Because yes, again, as I mentioned, you can break this figure with relative ease. And if at any point while you're moving those joints, if they're not moving in the way you need them to move, stop what you're doing and heat up those joints and then continue to move them. If you do that, you'll be just fine with this figure. Anyway, with that said, back to the rest of articulation. So the wings are pretty well covered. The waist is actually on a ball joint. It's kind of locked up at the moment with the wings. I'll show that off more when we talk about the walking pose. But the waist is on a ball joint. You're just not going to get any movement right now because the lower wings actually tab into the body. The hips are on ball joints. They're pretty limited. It's not that they're stiff. The sculpt just isn't doing them any kindness right now, any favors, I should say. So they can swivel up about that far, and they can swivel down about that far. But you're not going to get much flex out of them. They can move in about that much, and they can flex out only about that much. The legs are digi-rayed. So they're going to have 2 different knees, if you will. These are both on hinges. It can hinge up about that much. It can hinge down 2 clicks down that way, and it can swivel. And the lower leg also gets 2 points. My ankles don't move. Now, I don't know if this is actually one solid piece. It looks like that's actually a separated sleeve, a separated piece. So I don't know if this was just a different sculpt that they glued in place, or if mine is just frozen out the box that I never bothered to fix. But my feet, my ankles, they're frozen. It's one solid piece, at least on my copy. Again, don't actually know if that's intentional or not. Moving on to the tails. These are all ball joints. This is a segmented tail, moves down, straightens out about that much, and curves up about that much. It's about all the range you're going to get from those. They can move out to the side, though. Very nice. You get a lot more side-to-side movement out of these tails. All right, moving on to the necks and the heads. All these segments are ball joints. Now, the necks are actually sculpted with this curve to them. That's going to put a few limitations on the articulation. What you get in exchange for that is they're going to be able to look forward like this pretty naturally in their true neutral. But in terms of articulation, that is going to limit their movement forward especially. So they can look down only about that much. And in terms of moving them forward because of that sculpt, you're only going to get about that much in terms of getting them forward or looking straight down. But because of that sculpt, looking straight up and moving them back, you're going to get a lot more movement out of them, like so. Just like the tails, though, they can spread to the sides very nicely. So that is what you're looking at in terms of side-to-side range. And because of that curve, you can get them all sorts of really nice poses. Even get them turned around if you really wanted to. All of the mouths are on hinges. You can get them opened up all the way like so, and the tongues are also on hinges. They look very, very nice. All right, let's talk about this walking pose. So, as I already mentioned, yes, the wings are actually multi-segmented. Now, in a nutshell, all you're really doing is you're collapsing each of these segments down, and then you're going to bend the wings forward so that he's walking on this main hand joint right here. That's what you're going to be supporting the whole thing on. Now, full disclosure, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I really hate getting this figure into this pose. It never works for me. I can do the top part just fine. It's getting the bottom part of the wings positioned in a way where it actually looks natural. That part I really struggle with. All right, guys. This is about the best that I'm able to get Ghidorah into a walking pose. It's not even walking on the knuckles. As you can see, I just have him balanced on his feet. My issue here, again, I'm able to work with the upper wings just fine. It's the base of the wings that I just can never seem to get into a good groove with. Because these are all revolver joints, you're very restricted on how you can move the base of the wing. And I just can't ever seem to get the wings in the exact position that you need them to be in. What you need to do is you need to get the main wing more inward. And I can never seem to be able to pull that off. I also don't know what to do about the lower wings. They're just kind of there. You can't move them in. You can't really rotate them out. So they're just colliding with the main wings. It's a little frustrating. It looks good. And I have seen, like, I know you can pull it off. I've seen people do it. It looks good. This still looks good, looks impressive. Like, the fact that you can do this at all is crazy for a figure like this. So the fact that you are able to do this out the box on this figure is very impressive. It's commendable. It's worth noting. I'm just not able to pull it off in a way that's satisfying to me, at least. Now, before I get the wings completely tabbed back together, there is one other thing I want to talk about. Probably should have mentioned it in the paint section, but it slipped my mind at the time. And that is the fact that this figure is prone to paint chipping, just by the nature of how this figure is engineered, how it moves around. There's a lot of paint chipping on the scales on this wing. That's because, all the rotating around, this is colliding with this sleeve. It's just going to happen. Same with the tabs on the wing sections. If my white balance would just kind of stop for 1 second. Yeah, the tabs, you're going to get some paint chipping on there. Same with the small revolver inch. Just be mindful of that. There's not a lot you can do to prevent it unless you just never mess around with the wings. But do be careful about that. Now, as for accessories, this figure actually comes with a small assortment of stands, oddly enough. So it's going to come with the standard Hiya stands. There's a nice base. It's a little dusty. I can actually mention this real quick. So this is the same kind of stand that Rodan and Mothra came with. Small tangent. Now, as I mentioned, I glued mine, but this is what I was talking about, how they just kind of pop off. All I did was I glued that part like so. That needs to be more secure. So my Mothra and Rodan ones are still able to do that, but they can no longer rotate like that, and that is A-okay with me. Anyway, this figure comes with these little support stands. These are meant for the wings. So you get 2 of those, as well as a cradle piece. Wow, look at that. So you get 2 wing stands and a cradle piece for the crotch. I'm going to get some B-roll for you to see how all that looks. Honestly, though, this is all unnecessary. Ghidorah does not need any of this to stand on its own. My Ghidorah has not had any stands attached to it. It's been on my shelf for 2 years now, and it is still just fine. All right, let's talk about size. This absolute behemoth is going to stand about 10.25 inches tall to the top of the head. If we're talking about to the very top of the wing, this figure's just shy of 14 inches tall. And in terms of width, this figure is approximately 23 inches wide. And that's with the wings propped up like this. You can actually get the wings wider. Very similar to how Monster Arts did the wings, you can lower them and get a wider footprint. To do that, you'll just need to detach them from that lower wing, and then you can just, again on that revolver joint, you can just drop them down. I would strongly recommend using the stands if you're going to do this, but with the wings like this, it now has a wingspan of 25.5 inches. This is a very large piece. And here is the full King of the Monsters lineup from Hiya Toys. These 4 figures together at last look incredible. This is without a doubt the best King of the Monsters figure display that we have ever gotten. It is insane how big, how detailed, and how cheap these figures are. Here is, once again, the Monster Arts, that Godzilla, and the Monster Arts, that Kong. They are dwarfed by this Ghidorah. It's insane how big this figure is. And for a different flavor of size comparisons, here is the Hiya Ghidorah next to a couple Titanic Creations figures. This is Titanic Creations Pulgasari and Titanic Creations Yongari. These are great figures. I will be doing videos on them in time. I wanted to show these on screen though, because as of the time of this figure's posting, the crowdfunding campaign for Titanic Creations Kaijuscape is now online. This video is not sponsored. They did not ask me to do this. I'm just a small, lowly little channel who is a big, big fan of their product. If you're looking for really cool looking scale size buildings for your kaiju collection or display, go check out this crowdfunding campaign. You will not want to miss this. And while you're at it, check out some of their other figures. Again, I will be making videos on these figures in due time. But right now, I got my hands elbow deep in Hiya. Now, the only other thing I have to really demonstrate just how colossal this damn figure is, here is Ghidorah next to the McFarlane Toys. I think this is like a 12-inch King Kong. This is from the Godzilla and DC crossover. So this is the Kong that came with that 6-inch Batman figure. This is an impressively massive figure. This figure's so big that maybe I don't even want to do a banana for scale. I think the banana for scale, a perfectly reasonably sized, average sized banana for scale, would just look a little small compared to this. I'm just playing. Here's a banana for scale. And yeah, I mean, what were you expecting? This thing is absolutely gigantic. I'm not even going to bother taking the little stand I have for this out. That's just how massive this figure is. These necks are about as long as a damn banana. So with that, I'm now going to eat said banana because I am frankly starving. All right, let's wrap this video up so I can go eat something for real that isn't a banana. Doesn't matter if you collect Godzilla figures, broadly speaking. Doesn't matter if you strictly collect MonsterVerse figures. Doesn't matter if you collect only the King of the Monsters line. Doesn't even matter if you just like dragons. This figure will be an eye catcher. It's also a shelf hog, if I haven't made that abundantly clear by now. This is a massive figure that demands a lot of space. You are getting something of substantial value for, let's just say it, about the price of your average Monster Arts Godzilla figure today. It is what it is. I'm not trying to open that can of worms. All I'm saying is you're definitely getting $120 worth of figure out of this. Now, with that said, it's not perfect. It may look perfect, but it's not a perfect action figure. Those wings, they're not like made of glass, but they are fragile. If you're not careful with them, The base of the wings, they don't move quite as well as I want them to move. I think those could have been ball joints. Honestly, though, I'd say my biggest issue with this figure, not even an issue, it's more of a nitpick, really, are the tails, the length of the tails specifically. I don't remember how long Ghidorah's tails are in King of the Monsters, so maybe this is accurate. But I personally don't like how short these tails are, because by the time you get them curved to a point where he can stand and use them as support, you only get like 3 joints worth of movement out of these tails. You can't get them curved or doing anything dynamic. They look nice, but I personally prefer longer tails on a Ghidorah. I would have liked to have seen these maybe double the length, so you could really get some movement out of them. If I were to say anything else that was a nitpick about this figure, I think while the walking mode is very cool, I almost think I would have preferred bendy wire wings, just like they did with Rodan. I think I mentioned in the Mothra video that I also would have liked to have seen them in Mothra too, but I think that's the only thing I would say is missing from this figure. Is bendy wings would just give you a lot more display presence, a lot more options to do with this figure on a shelf. Other than that, guys, I don't know what else to say about this figure. This is one of those things where you see it and you make up your mind about it immediately. You are either completely on board with this, or you have a better alternative, and that's perfectly fine too. But I say this is absolutely worth it. So with that, guys, thank you for joining me. I hope this video isn't too long. Definitely going to be a pain in the fucking ass to edit, though. This figure's so big that I basically have to just take the audio of what I've been talking about for the last hour or so, and I'm just going to have to film it all from scratch. So this is going to be a beast to film and edit, but hope you all appreciate the videos. Thank you all for joining me, and until next time, guys, see you!